olive and white. The head I'm using is a 1/2 Barumba, which is a perfect jig for walleye. Let's get started. I begin by locking on my thread with some touching wraps, about 1/8 of an inch back on the hook shank, just to give it a good base and bring it back to the head. Okay, first I'm going to start with my dyed olive. We're going to get ourselves a pinch. And first I will remove the smaller hairs, the broken hairs from the ends, from the base of the hair rather, and then I'm going to stack the hairs just by hand until we get them all generally the same length. I'm going to use my vise as a guide. I like the hair to be the same distance as the body past the hook, which will be just to the edge of this silver part on my vise. Trade hands. I'm going to keep this pinch tight, very tight. Keep those hairs compressed. I'm going to lock this on with about 8 turns. All right, 7 to 8. Don't get too hung up on the details of how many wraps. It's going to matter depending on the size of your pinch, the coarseness of the hair, etc. But that was 8 wraps right there. Creating a V, compressing the hair just behind the head of the jig and creating a V shape so that hair is not going to pull out. So before I add the white, I'm going to give this a twist. And I twist that hair so it is now on the bottom side of this hook shaft, which once the jig is out of the vise will be the top of the jig, so the back of the jig. Then I'm using a undyed, just a natural colored white. Again, just pull out the broken hairs, the small fuzzies that are there along the body, and then change my grip, and then I will stack by hand, just aligning these tips. I don't use a hair stacker for this. I want it to try to remain slightly natural looking. Some of the hairs that just don't sit right, you can just pull right out and toss away, but that looks good. And these pinches, the hair is equal, just about equal in thickness. Here I'm going to measure, and I put my finger right up here just so I can see where the tips of this olive color and then the tips of the white kind of line up. If I don't have my hand there, I kind of lose it between my background of my tabletop. So if I need to, you can just adjust your pinch just so they line up. I'll switch my grip one last time, and again, keep this very, very tight. Tight, tight, tight. I'm going to snip it flush with my fingertips, and I lay this right behind the head, and again, I can lock it on. Now there's 5 wraps. Just to lock it on, normally I wouldn't remove my hand, but just to show the video, that's what we got. And now I can finish this collar. Ideally, you want to keep this collar nice and short, which you're able to do if when you first wrap your threads and there's that V shape in the hair, you can keep this collar relatively short. Now to finish it off, I do a whip finish, but I use thread to aid me with this, to help keep it a little bit neater than if I just whipped it by hand or used a tool. So I take a piece of thread of a different color than my collar, and it's probably, I don't know, about 15 inches long. Fold it in half. Going to reach underneath your jig and place the loop right underneath your thread. Now I can take and add some wraps. I go about halfway back and then wrap back to the head. And I can do this a few times. If your thread's not nice and smooth, you can go back in, and the idea is to make a nice looking cone from the hair up to the head. Now I give myself a length of thread. This hand is holding the thread nice and tight between the jig and my fingers, so this collar is not going to loosen up. I can snip the tag end, and I'm still keeping this pressure on the thread here so the collar doesn't loosen up. Put the tag end through the loop, and then I can switch hands, again keeping pressure so this collar doesn't loosen up, and then I can just pull the loop through. Take my blade and trim that off. Now I'm using size A thread. It's probably the thickest that I'd want to use for a jig of this size. A smaller thread, you'd get a prettier collar, but that would take a little bit more wrapping. And this jig is ready to be finished. So straighten out the hairs. As you can see, there's my collar looking all pretty, and the tail is all one length. To finish this off, I put it back in my vise, and I use a lacquer based thread cement. I'm able to rotate my vise just so I can get all sides, and this is thinned down to a consistency where it will flow and saturate the threads, and also the little bit that I did get on the hair, the capillary action will also draw underneath the threads. There we have it. So, another word about the head cement is I do not use Zap-A-Gap or super glues. I find that they dry very hard with the thread and actually cause the thread to be brittle. So there you have it, a simple 2-color bucktail jig that will help you put more fish in the boat. I will add links down below to any tools and supplies that we used here today. Like and subscribe if you want to see more content.